All right, we're gonna get started here in just a couple minutes. I do ask that if you plan on talking tonight, please make sure that you sign in. Put down your name, your address, what agenda item you are planning on talking about. And when you're speaking, please speak into the microphone. We do record this for minutes. So we do have everybody here who's going to be here. We can start once the bell tolls 5 o'clock.
Like you said, if you plan on speaking, come up and sign in now, so we won't have to delay it. Go to the first item of business.
Move that we approve the minutes from the April 9th meeting.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Second. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed? Okay. Done. There's no old business, new business.
The first item under new business is a request for a special exception for a short-term rental to be operated at 106 Sasportis Lane, Somerville, South Carolina, TMS number 137-1409005. The applicant has requested a special exception in accordance with the town's Unified Development Ordinance. On December 6, 2023, the owner of the property applied for a lodging conditional use permit. An issue is identified concerning the possibility of renting the property based on the homeowner doing the work of renovation themselves and signing the affidavit restricting rental for 2 years. This restriction has been waived by the state, and the applicant has chosen to move forward with the short-term rental plan. The zoning of the property dictates that a special exception is required to operate a short-term rental in GR5 zoning. Section 13.10.4 establishes the criteria that the BZA is required to evaluate the application. The following are the criteria. 1, whether the proposed use is compatible with existing land uses in the surrounding area. 2, whether the proposed site plan, circulation plan, and schematic architectural designs are harmonious with the character of the surrounding area. 3, the likely impact on public infrastructure such as roads, parking facilities, and water and sewer systems, and on existing infrastructure and services is adequately service the proposed use without negatively impacting existing uses in the area in the town. 4, whether the proposed use and designs are in general conformity with the town's comprehensive plan and any other plans officially adopted by the town. 5, likely impact on public health and safety. And 6, potential creation of noise, lights, fumes, dust, smoke, vibration, fire hazard, or other injurious or obnoxious impacts. Based upon staff review of the application and the location of the property, staff's only concern would be that Sasportis is a smaller residential street. However, the board previously approved a special exception at 709 Felix Street. The owner of that property has sold the property and the special exception is no longer active. That would establish a precedent that a short-term rental is compatible with the surrounding area. If the short-term rental is operated properly and there are no events, parties, or other large attendance gatherings, it is possible that a short-term rental at this location may have little impact on the neighbors or the surrounding street. Staff has not received any phone calls from anyone concerning the proposed request, and the BZA must evaluate the application against the stated criteria above and determine whether a special exception is appropriate at this location. I will move on to this. This is the location. The main house is here on the lot. There's a house, a pool house, and then the short-term rental. As stated previously, the zoning is GR5. which requires the special exception. So this is part of the submittal that the owner has provided. I can turn it over to him at this point and allow him to speak on his own behalf.
Hey, good evening. I'm J.R. Kramer. My wife and I moved to Somerville into this house in August. We built the home, we renovated the cottage. Tim, could you go through those pictures of what it used to look like?
Sure.
So this is what it was when I bought it. And we did a complete renovation. You can go to the next, right? And so that's what it looks like today. I think we've done a great job in keeping the character of the street and of the neighborhood. And we love Somerville. We lived here 25 years ago when we first got married. And when COVID hit, we kind of rethought our whole life and brought my whole family back to Somerville. And I also went through the neighborhood and I have petitioned that neighborhood there side. I wanted to make sure that everyone was okay with what I was doing. And they knew our plans. And then they said the zoning design. So I went through and everyone just thinks that we did a great job on the street. Met the neighbors, got to meet Miss Campbell. I think her family at one time owned half the Assess Portis and Graham Lane at one time. So she signed the petition. And I think we meet all the criteria, the 6 criteria that was on there. I don't think we're gonna have any parties. Again, we live right next door at the main house. I think half the time it's gonna be probably church missionaries, people coming from other places. That was one of the reasons why we did all of this, is we had a heart for our church and the community to where we could house people that are coming into the community. So any questions?
Are you actively going to advertise this?
On VRBO.
Okay.
Yeah, not Airbnb, just VRBO.
And you live next door?
Yeah.
And the driveway that you have will be adequate parking? You won't have renters parking on the street?
No, there's enough for 3 cars. But we only have 2 bedrooms. So we meet all our criteria. We see it more as a family coming, or maybe a couple.
You say you live next door. That's
Yeah.
that's the house on the same lot. The big
It
house.
is.
Okay, thank you.
I'd move that we approve the request.
Second that.
Great. No, thank you.
The second item under new business is TMS number 1371005009123 123 West Richland Street, zone GR5, general residential, owned by Central Baptist Church. Variance request to increase the maximum lot coverage from 35% to 42%, ordinance section 2.7.2C. So the need for the variance was determined after the parking was completed. During the review process, the original plan called for an asphalt drive with plantation mixed parking spaces. This kept the lot coverage for the site below the 35% requirement. It was brought to the attention of the town that the entire parking lot, aisle, and spaces were installed in concrete, and that the pond was not installed based on the approved plans. Staff feels that the applicant does not meet all 4 criteria and that a hardship, is not present. Extraordinary conditions do not exist on the property. If the plan had been implemented based upon the approved plan, there would be no need for a variance. B, other property in the area do not have similar conditions. Most are residential uses, not an institutional church use. C, utilization of the property is not eliminated or unreasonably restricted due to the lot coverage limit. The property was shown to meet the coverage limit based on a plan submitted and approved by the town. D, detriment may be caused to other properties by the issuance of lot coverage variance. All impervious surfaces contribute to elevated runoff, and though the applicant may have added elements to help facilitate drainage, the property still far exceeds the permitted limit due to a project completed by the applicant. If the board chooses to approve the requested variance, staff strongly recommends the following conditions. 1, that the existing pond be modified to accommodate the increased runoff and be reviewed by town staff for compliance with town and state stormwater requirements within 60 days of approval. 2, that the existing stockpile of soil currently located behind the building be removed and that the area be regraded to original grades prior to construction within 60 days of the approval. And 3, that the landscaping approved as part of the original approved plan will be installed within 60 days of the approval. So this is the property in question. The church is actually on the south side of Rutherford Street, and the parking lot was installed on the north side on the adjacent properties. These properties have since been combined. It's not reflected in our map. Dorchester County has not provided us with those updated drawings for that. So this is their plat, and these were the original approved plans that were reviewed by the town and approved for construction. You can see the asphalt parking drive as well as the gravel plantation mix parking spaces. Ultimately, this is the plan with landscaping installed based upon the approval granted. It was difficult. The applicant provided an update with the survey. They had a surveyor come out, cite the location of it. You can see the X's on the plan. Those represent the spot elevations taken by the surveyor. Those were overlaid on the construction drawing provided by Earth Source Engineering. End result is that the total impervious surface for the property went from 35%, which was allowed, to 42%. And that would be the variance that you are you can hear to review today. So at this time, I will turn it over to the applicant and allow them to present their response.
Good evening. My name is Charles Frederick. I represent Central Baptist Church, and I'm the treasurer of the church. Church is 114 years old. And when we started on this project, we sought Earth Source as the engineering company to engage this project. I did all the work pro bono for the church, and when we looked at this project, and it was missed in reference to the asphalt or concrete, but 8 people missed the fact that it was supposed to be gravel and parking spaces, but it didn't make sense. We would have never moved forward with the project had we known that it was referred for gravel because of the elderly people in the church and them having to walk in the asphalt because it's the same as walking on the dirt. So the argument now is not so much argument, but what we're asking for is if the plans were built on 35% variance with the water calculations of moving the water from across the asphalt or concrete to the storm basin. And by adding the asphalt, it went to 42%. And we had an engineer come out and do an as-built plan to factor in, could the pond handle the additional 7% so that we could ask for your respectfully guidance to grant us the variance of the 7% and allow us to move forward with the plans. And 60 days is reasonable to finish the project with the landscaping, the storm basing, and removing the dirt. So that's where we are. And right now, we're asking that the town of Somerville allow us that variance with the 7% to give us to the 42%. Thank you.
I have a question. So are you saying that the storm basin as designed, although you're not there yet, you're willing to do that storm basin as designed?
Actually, the storm basin is designed to the plans. Now, what happened was in the calculations, you have the building, which is the fellowship hall. If you look at the fellowship hall, you look at the storm basin. In discussion with digging, when they did, the surveyor came out and they did the elevations for the pond. We asked the question, okay, at the building itself and the storm basin, he said that as long as you get the depth of the pond, it doesn't make as long as you can get the same width and depth by either width or going down, you would acquire the same the word I'm looking for, the same calculation. And what happened was the city said you need to go further, which would have put the pond closer to the existing building, which we have no problem because I think there's an additional 15, 20 feet between the basin and that building. So we would have room to go there. But that's why initially didn't go that far, because it was going to push it to the building.
But you can go deeper, right?
Yes, sir.
And you're willing to do that?
Yes, sir.
The additional depth, we will handle.
Yes, you could go down and you could go out a little further. So that would equivalent to the 7%.
Tim,
How did you remove the water from the pond?
Sir,
How do you remove the water from the pond to absorb the additional water?
well, what you do is you block the water that's in there off, and then you pump a certain sector of the water out to dig it. So you don't have to remove all the water. Basically, you build a platform inside of the pond to block the water, almost like a dam, so that the water is blocked. And then you remove that water, because you don't have to remove all the water. That would allow you to be able to dig out and put the box in that will tie it to the city drain and to move forward with it.
Any other questions?
Yeah, your contractor read these diagrams and didn't notice that there was supposed to be gravel and he just concreted everything?
We ran these plans by even the town people came out and looked at these plans. And we asked the question. And they said it was okay to pour the concrete.
The town did.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So we did not arbitrarily just pour concrete by just saying we're just gonna blow through this and ignore the fact. But if you look at the plans, there's no mention in the offset. What they're alluding to in the plans is the little pebbles in the parking spaces that are signifying that you need to put pebbles, which I did not see that. And when I read it, I did not see it. And then 8 other people missed that as well. So even the town, when they came out to the space before we even broke ground, and we asked that question, they said it was okay to pour the concrete.
Who said that it was okay?
I don't have his name
The
right now.
contractor?
No, this was
town?
the engineer from the town. And they came out and met with me and the pastor that day. And
I have one question, and the church has agreed to put the planning in that was discussed.
sir,
The church has agreed to put the plants and all the,
yes,
all that stuff.
yes, sir. All the plants will be implemented according to the plan. And actually it's ready for the plants to be planted. So the only issue right now would be you granting the variance, we working the pond, and then finishing up with the plants and removing the dirt.
Okay.
But we didn't want to remove the dirt because
Excuse me. I looked at that. And the concrete, I don't know where you're gonna put the plants, because there's concrete right up to the street.
said what?
There's concrete up to the curbing or whatever it is.
No, it's not up to the, if you look at the, if you go out there and look at the site, the concrete is not up to the.
Oh, excuse me. All right, now I see. Yeah, there were people in the way, I think, when I was there.
How long ago was this project completed?
I don't know the actual date. It's probably in November, December last year. And the distance from the roadway to the concrete is what the plans call for.
The question, where is your property line? Is it on the edge of the concrete? Or is it on the edge of the road?
Well, it would be at the edge of the road, but you also have what you call an infringement
So
easement, shall I say?
An easement?
Yeah.
Dennis, sorry, if you look at the plan on the screen now, the line here represents the property line. They have a very
Right.
small amount of actual right of way here at the edge. And the dash line would represent the required setback as well as the 8-foot landscape border that's required per ordinance for any parking in this location. It appears as though they have about 10 feet from the edge of the concrete to the actual edge of pavement of Richland Street. So they have enough room there to put the landscaping on their own property and meet the requirement.
Tim, that the 42% is impermeable. That's your estimate is 42% of what? Of there's 3.
Of the total lot. So that includes the existing building, all the sidewalks, and now the parking spaces, drive aisle, et cetera.
I think the first map you showed us showed like 3 separate lots. Were 2 of them combined and there's still a third one, or?
That's across the street that actually has the primary, chapel, the church building is located here. This, I believe, is a, fellowship hall or, something along those lines. But the church owns these three properties. And, as I said, they have combined these lots
And so that's 42% of those two lots.
of these two lots, correct?
Thank you.
Tim, how did you account for the storm basin in the calculation?
That is just, that's standard. It does not, you take the total that, and the engineer determines what those flows are, how, how much water is going to get displaced. So, and Gary Alford's here from the town's, engineering department, but basically there are calculations where they figure out how much volume they need to hold based on how much impervious surface is added. And then that water is held in the detention pond and released at the same rate as it would have been prior to development. So there are numbers that they have that establish that baseline for green grass, which is what this was before. And then that change from green grass to concrete, and it's math that I don't understand. But that being said, by what was approved and reviewed by the town of Somerville, the engineering department, and being the asphalt drive with the plantation mix parking spaces, they met the 35%. They did not exceed. They were not in excess of what is permitted, and the plan worked. There would not be any additional runoff. By paving the parking spaces, they've gone above that threshold, and now to meet that, they will have to modify the storm basin in some manner. But that will have to be reviewed and approved by the town to make sure that it meets the requirements to meet that flow. So that's where those conditions are, is, it's one thing to say, oh, we can have the volume, but does does it work? Does it release at the proper rate? Does it meet stormwater requirements? So that's really more of the question. If you choose to approve it, they need to provide us plans that show that it works.
So what is the calculation of adding all that concrete
Well, that's what you,
to, excuse me? Huh? No. They approved asphalt through there, not complete road, complete parking lot. The parking lot takes up the parking spaces, which was which would allow water to go through. Okay, so they've added that additional square footage.
Yes, so the plan went from
Okay.
35% now to 42, which is.
They
what they're
added-
saying. That's the 7. Yes.
All right.
is 7%, correct?
Have you noticed any drainage issues on the property since the completion of that project?
No,
Or-
actually, there was a draining issue prior to doing the project. Every time it rained, and there's on record to DOT that the road would flood 2 to 3 feet of water. Since this project and installing the basin, that has been eliminated. There's no more flooding of water on those streets.
Was there a basin there before you started this project?
No, sir.
So you, as part of this project, you created that basin as well. And that's where all that dirt behind the building is from.
It's from the basin, yes, sir.
And that you'll eventually get rid of as well, those
Within the
mounds.
60 days, all that dirt will be removed.
Any other discussion?
I have one other question on the drain. So on the side, you've got a 20-foot drainage easement, right? Now we've got concrete on top of that drainage. The towns is okay with that?
there's no, the pile of dirt is actually in the drainage easement. That's the
So
big.
that has to
tension.
go.
So yes, they are currently, covering that drainage easement. So if there was an issue within that for any of the existing storm drains that are located within it, the town wouldn't be able to access those storm drains. Their basin, as you can see, over in the corner, that is where they connect to those existing drains to outfall to, the road and, the drainage system. So that's where the modifications will have to be made to meet that. But yes, as of right now, there's no concrete in that drainage easement area. It's just the pile of dirt.
Can the town recalculate this to see where we really stand on this?
Well, part of it is they need to provide the information to show that how it's constructed meets our requirements.
That's what we initially did. After this, we brought the engineer back out, another engineer from Source to do an as-built plan to calculate an additional 7% to assure that it would meet the needs of the parking space from the 35% to the 7%, because that's the issue, is the additional 7%. So when we had the additional engineer come out to do the as-built plan to assure that that would work, and those numbers were calculated between Source and that engineer with the as-built plan, and it was facilitated and saying that it was fine, that it would meet the needs of the properties surrounding and the church.
Anything else?
Other than that, this is a picture of the water before, if you'd like to see it.
Okay, so you're saying that with the way everything's designed, storm basin, you've actually improved the drainage, but you've got a little bit of ways to go with the storm basin to satisfy the town. And the other two conditions of the plantings and getting rid of the mound of dirt in the back, you're okay with those conditions?
Yes, the dirt was not removed because we wasn't sure, once we set the box in, if we had to add dirt or what the modifications would be. So it didn't make sense to haul it off and then bring dirt back. That would be ludicrous. So we waited till we get a finalization from you guys to say, hey, this is what you need to do. Then we will remove the dirt, we will plant the trees, and then we would move the basin.
All right, thank you very much. Any other questions? Okay. I move that we table this until the next session, until such a time we can actually, in our town, engineers can review it to see what the calculations actually are. Especially since we already know how much concrete there is there.
I'll second that.
There's a second. Any discussion? Okay. All in favor of the motion, raise your right hand. Opposed? All right, let's postpone until the next session. We can see all the calculations. Any other business?
There is no other business on the agenda.
Have a second? All in favor? All right, adjourn. Thank you. I can't see.